You didn't make the first tier? Oh. You didn't make the second tier? Oh. Are you going to make the third tier? Honestly, ask yourself. Do you really think that you should have been in a tier higher? Do you? Because you didn't. This is the bottom middle tier. These three teams have a shot at the playoffs. But they're going to need some things to fall into place. Some good pickups. Very, very little injuries. And a lucky schedule. Team 7 and the start of the bottom middle tier is a team that decided not to draft a kicker or defense. And in complete honesty, didn't really decide. He just didn't have any draft picks to do it. And that's team Sexy Time Explosion, Sexy Time Explosion, Sexy Time Explosion. Why? Why would a team that... Brett, why? This team hasn't even, got a defense or a kicker yet. Jordan Howard, AJ Green, Isaiah Crowell. I'm not a huge on Isaiah Crowell either, guys. However, still a solid keeper. That's why. He had 3 solid keepers. You had Cam Newton, who was still good last year and is bound to have an even better year this year against a not very, very good defensive, division. You throw all those in together, and no matter what, the team's going to be pretty good. Jamison Crowder, kind of a little relish on the top from Washington. Where he's really struggling is with his depth. If he had any bit of depth or 2 stronger players, I would have put him in the middle tier, in the middle top tier, the second tier. Unfortunately, right now, as it stands, his flex spot is Matt Forte. Again, I said it before in the last video, in the tier 2 video, that I wouldn't take any Jet personally because of how horrible they're going to be on offense and as a team overall. But to take a cruddy one with a timeshare on a cruddy team, who's pretty old, doesn't really work out. And in a PPR league, if you have a mediocre running back and a mediocre receiver, you got to go with the receiver because he could, go for only 10 yards but have 3 catches, and it's still 4 points. Where the running back would have to run for 40 yards there, or 30 and a catch. I get it. But again, we're in the bottom middle tier, so there's going to be these teams that are going to have flaws in them. And having Tevin Coleman, Jordan Matthews, who actually I think should be a flex, Kenny Galladay, who is like number 4 receiver from Detroit and doesn't look like anything special. Tyler Lockett is going to have some good weeks, but I mean, it's going to drive you crazy to guess which one. Kenny Stills and David Njoku from Cleveland being a backup tight end. You drafted 2 tight ends, which again is why you're here. If it wasn't for your 5 strong players, I would like to drop you down all the way to the bottom. But anyhow, Sexy Time, you have about a 30% chance of making the playoffs. You did what you had to do. I think the trades that you made got you young talent that you're going to be able to keep. I mean, you already have, no matter what, 2 solid keepers for next year, depending on if Crowell keeps doing well. And if Crowell does well, then you have 3 solid keepers for next year automatically. And that's ahead of the game with half the league. So you took a big bet a few years ago to win the championship. You did. It took a miracle in the finals, but you had to rebuild, and I think you did what you had to do this year. So, you're going to take a lot of shit, but I think that was a pretty smart play with your drafting and your trades. Next guy is another newcomer. I have Dope Burger. He's gonna take over the number 7 spot here, and second in the third tier. Dope Burger, as the reason why he's where he is the strength of his team is his receivers: Jordy Nelson, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelce as a tight end, and Alshon Jeffrey, I think, is a really actually solid receiving core. I don't think they're not gonna light it up week after week after week, but I think they're gonna give him enough points to compete every week. Where he's gonna really struggle is finding those running backs. He's Dope can definitely make the playoffs. I think a trade would have to be made for a running back. The problem is, I know the team that that he took over from her was a little bit limited, but I think the solid receivers and maybe being able to trade for a running back if they're in the playoff hunt definitely would make sense. But either way, Ty Montgomery and Darren Sproles, kind of a really weak running back core, and we know that's the crux that you are carrying right now. You have your deep in receiver, even in your bench. Devontae Parker, I think, is strong. Actually, I like Jay Jones out of Buffalo. Derrick Henry from Tennessee, he just doesn't get enough carries, so I don't like him. Alvin Kamara from New Orleans, but that's a big flyer. And you got a backup tight end in Colby Fleener. What's the point? I mean, you have Travis Kelce. How many times are you going to play Colby Fleener? 1 week? So you're gonna waste a roster spot instead of on some young backup or someone behind somebody else that might turn out to be amazing. It doesn't make sense to me. Everybody's like, oh, well, why waste a roster spot on one of those guys that aren't going to be starting right away? Because you're not going to be starting Colby Fleener right away no matter what. He could be healthy. At least take somebody that, that flyer that, Jordan Howard last year I got. If he's on your roster and he goes for 40 some week, even if it's on the bench, you're not fighting the waiver wire and hoping that you have the highest waiver wire pick. Get some young stud. Drop Fleener. There's no need to carry two tight ends. Just ridiculous, guys. Ridiculous. Anyhow, last person to hang on to the bottom middle is Mr. Auto Draft himself, Fraggle Boober. There's a plus and a minus about Auto Draft. It gives you an alright team. Strengths. I mean, Drew Brees, he's always in the top 3 of quarterbacks. I'm not a big, keep a quarterback guy, but, when you don't really have anything else, Drew Brees is there. And if his team can go 2 ways, he catches some breaks, great. He trades, he gets somebody, or he can be a seller and sell somebody like Drew Brees, which, going into the playoffs, someone might want the number 2 or number 3 best fantasy quarterback on their roster going into the playoffs. Your running backs are weak. Latavius Murray is going to be in a timeshare, and he's going to go less and less and less as the year goes. A New England running back is just one of the most frustrating things possible because he's going to be great and then horrible and great and then horrible. And the week that you're sitting him, he's going to be great, and vice versa. Because you never know what that mad genius is going to do, and that's why he's the best coach in the league. Amir Abdullah, he's injury prone. He hasn't really shown anything. He was great, coming in, and everybody loved him as a rookie, and then he didn't do anything. And bottom line is Detroit's a pass-happy team, and I just don't see the durability for Abdullah. However, Des Bryant, Kelvin Benjamin, and Gronkowski for your pass catchers, solid, and that's why you have a chance to make the playoffs. If for some odd reason Glesley and Abdullah having a great year or even above average years, you're going to be in the playoff hunt and a really solid team because of your pass catchers. Um, your bench is a little weak. I do like C.J. Prosise that you have for Seattle. Seeing that all the other injuries on Seattle, he could end up being the number one running back again. Joey Strong. You took a second quarterback and a second tight end, and that's why you're just barely hanging on. You took Eric Ebron and you took Roethlisberger. Again, when are you going to start Roethlisberger over Breeze? Very, very rarely, if ever, if only on the bye week. When are you going to start Ebron over Gronk? Only if Gronk gets hurt. Now, I can understand that. However, you can always just pick up another tight end. It's not like Eric Ebron wouldn't be there, you know? So having another tight end, and you have two defenses in the Bengals. Again, you might not have picked Roethlisberger, Ebron, and the Bengals because it was auto-drafted. But drop them, pick somebody up off the waivers, maybe some young studs, some backups. Do a little bit of research. Maybe you can get a good sleeper that turns into a huge plus for your team. Anyhow, that's the bottom middle tier. And if you haven't heard your name yet in these 3 videos, guess where you are. That's right, buddy. You're in the basement. I know one person's going to bitch about it. Probably 2. Maybe 3.